Once you believe in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, this opens up this entire new world. You are now connected to the infinite. Your life is now aimed upward to the divine, which is great, but now what? Paul is fancy of saying, if you're a Christian, for goodness sakes, go be a Christian. But what does that mean? Jesus could have easily been here, lived his life, died on the cross without anyone talking to him, without learning anything. He could have accomplished his task, but he spent time with us. He taught us. He brought disciples in around him to watch him, to see how life could be lived. I don't know if you've ever been around a fresh Christian. What I mean by that is, as an adult, when someone accepts Jesus for the first time, if you haven't, this is what it looks like. They're super excited. They want to be at the church every day. They volunteer for everything. They go to every Bible study. They want to learn more. They're just devouring about who and what they can be now. And they learn so much, and it just always reminds us there's so much to learn. It reminded me of the first vehicle I drove. It was a John Deere 4020. I don't know, 7, 8 years old, something like that. And my granddad needed to do something he couldn't do by himself, so I had to learn how to drive the tractor. And it took me a while. And if you've ever driven a tractor nowadays, good luck. But even back then, you have about 20 different gears, all in different directions. You have your clutch, you have your throttle, you've got several foot levers. There's just lots going on inside of this. And so my granddad would sit right beside me in the tractor and taught me how to drive. But I had no idea of the world that opened up. That tractor could do a million things. I had a powerful life. So much could be done, but without the teachings of a master, I wouldn't even be able to start it. I wouldn't even know where to begin, even though I had been tapped into this huge new potential in my life. And so I learned how to do that, and I learned to drive other things. And my father, who's in the back now, ended up getting one of these for me. It's a 1969 Mach 1 Mustang. And that's me. It is. And what's funny is those tube shorts, those tube socks, and those 5-inch shorts are back now. I was kind of shocked when I saw them. I never thought I'd ever see those 2 green striped socks again. But that's what they're wearing. If you wear short socks, that makes you old. You have to have the long ones now. That makes you cool and hip. So, whatever. So there I am washing this nice car off, but it is not a car that you can drive if you don't know what you're doing. Right? Cars open up an entirely new world to you. Do you remember, some of you who are 39 like me, when you first got your car and you had to go buy milk at the store for your dad and mom because they could finally use you for something, productive? It opened up your world. You were tapped into this whole new possibility. And for some, you're about to lose that ability. Maybe you're to the point now where you have to give up your car. And how dreadful that thought is to lose your mobility, because it opened up an entirely huge world for you. But you had to be taught in order to drive safely, to know what that really meant. I remember one time Ryan Nielsen, one of my friends, I never let anyone drive that Mustang for a good reason. And we were at a Godfather's near our house, and boy, we could eat that thing dry back then. Man, to have that metabolism again. But he said, can I just drive it? Can I just drive it to your house? It's only like a block or two away. Can I just drive it once? And I said, well, what's the harm? And he used to drive a Deuce. It's like this massive car that you had the floor to get going. Like you literally had to floor his car just to get it up to speed. Well, you don't do that in a Mustang. At a 351 cubic inch block, and that thing could roll. It was a little squirrely. It didn't have all the safety features they have in cars today. And so he got in it, and he slowly turned around, and he turned on the main street, and guess what he did? He gunned it. And at about 100 feet, we're about in a ditch. We were that close. And I stopped him, and I said, get out of my car, with a few little exclamation points in between there. And I never let anyone ever drive it again, because even though you are tapped into this whole new, powerful, new universe, how do you get connected with it? How do you stay there? How do you know what to do next? This is an important question for us. And we're going to look at it today through a story about a storm in Mark as we continue with hitting the mark, going through the Gospel of Mark, and how Jesus taught and some of the pieces that we can learn along the way. What does it mean to get deeper into Christ? So that day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. And so this is starting out just like every other day. This is sort of the beginning of the middle part. They didn't quite know who Jesus was. They knew he was special. He might, but they were still learning. They knew they had something in him. And so these were all, or most of them, seasoned fishermen, boatsmen, sails. They knew how to pull this off. And so they get on the boat. They've done this many times before, and they head out. And then a furious squall came up, and waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. We know this in the prairie, don't we? Storms just come out of nowhere. In one of our family vacations, we had a squall come up in Pierre, South Dakota, and it was massive. And don't talk to my family, but they thought they were going to die on their way back to the shore. It can get pretty crazy quick and then die off. It's just one of those series. So this furious squall came up, and the waves broke, and everything was just going crazy, and they were almost swamped. So these great sailors, these great fishermen, were trying to do everything they could, but they were getting overwhelmed. That is swamped, right? They were trying hard on their own to get this boat across, and it was just building up on their life. They couldn't handle it anymore. Now, Jesus was in the stern of the boat, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" See, this is the first part of learning how to be a Christian. You have to learn to invite God into your life. Invite Him into the different situations you're going through, whether you're looking for a new job, whether you're about to go into a serious relationship, whether you're about to travel, or whatever's in front of you. The first piece that we have to learn is that you're not alone. You're tapped into this infinite. So invite God in. This changes nothing about how God works. What it does is open you up to the possibility that God is in your life. And so language matters to me, so I oftentimes like to throw up definitions. So invitation is the act of inviting or a request for someone's presence or participation. So we're asking God, be present in my life and participate with me. Participate in my life. How does this change things? Okay. How about this? How many people wore purple today to church? Did you pay attention? All right. See, this is how our minds work. I believe this totally going through the scriptures. Your life is nothing but a narrative. You see the world through your narrative. Whatever aim you're working for in your life, you see what you want to see that fits that narrative, fits what you want to accomplish. And things that don't help you in this narrative, you cast to the side or your brain automates. So you walk through most of your life not noticing detail. But if I were to tell you that everyone wearing purple today, something is about to happen to you today by the work of the Holy Spirit. So find all the people that have purple. Now don't look around. If I told you that before you showed up, what would you be doing today? Well, now you're paying attention. Yeah. You're paying attention to purple now, aren't you? I know there's purple in this room. That may or may not be the case, by the way. Your day is probably going to be fantastic. I don't know. But now that you're cued in, now that I've invited you into this narrative, now that I've brought you in to the sermon, now you're paying attention. So God probably has been working in your life the whole time. You just have never paid attention to the details. So invitation is critical. And it's one of the very simple first steps in our life to bring God on. Now we're looking for Him, right? And so Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. And the disciples said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drowned?" So they finally invited Jesus into the equation, didn't they? They tried on their own, and they were swamped. They couldn't do it. And so they went to him as a last resort. That's kind of tough, isn't it? You see, but the wisdom of the ancients have taught us that you cannot ignore fear. If you don't confront your fears, if you don't confront these issues, you hand over control to them. And so, you see on many occasions, even back in Jonah, where storms have come up and the sailors were scared out of their minds and they were afraid, and the messenger of God was again down sleeping during these storms, and they're like, "Will you please get up? How can you sleep in these situations?" These storms have come up throughout the Scriptures, and they pass on a very interesting lesson. That when you go before the Lord, when you invite Him in, when you cry out, He will bring us out of that distress. He will still the storm to a whisper, and the waves of the sea are hushed. We're going to have storms in our life, but when we are connected to the power source, when we have invited Him in, when we expect Him to be here with us doing something, it changes something deep inside of us, how we approach life. It's very important. And so first we invite Him in. And so He got up, He rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. Wow. This is where we get into the next part, imitation. Why did Jesus do that? What was He doing? This was, of course, this is hyperbole. This is something very extreme. So people's fears I do not take for granted, because each one of us are afraid of different items in our life. Fear is very real, and oftentimes we're programmed by nature to have anxiety in a good way. We are separated from the animals because we can project negative outcomes. What a great gift to have, right? Oop, if I put my hand in there, the bear's going to eat it off. Or if I go up that hill, the wolves are going to get me. Or that color berry's the wrong one. Or this isn't going to go well. So that's a great thing to have, but it can overwhelm us until all we can do is live in fear. And we don't want that. And so Jesus is showing a situation where they should be afraid, where they're experiencing fear, and He's sleeping on a cushion. There's something to be taught here. Imitation is another gift humanity has over all the creatures. We can imitate others better than any other creature in existence. We watch, we learn from others. And I love the definition here. It's something derived or copied from an original. I'm the second part of that, often in an inferior way. So yes, we are called to follow what Jesus has done, but oftentimes what is our version of it? Well, it's a little off, not quite, not hitting the mark. But again, it's important for us and for Jesus to teach us what right looks like, what humanity could do. This is what you're tapped into now, and even if we can't hit the marks, it's important for us to know what those are. And so, how are we going to imitate Jesus here? What's funny about all of this is, I get this a lot, Jesus' confidence matched His competence. I'm going to say that one more time. Jesus' confidence on the boat matched His competence. He knew God's plan. He was tapped into the power source. He knew this wasn't it. He was in a position of knowledge and confidence in His competence, where He had been in His life. And so that's why He was behaving the way He was behaving. Oftentimes, most of the time, humanity is way more confident than they are competent at what they're doing. They put on a show, they put on a facade, they know they're not there. But in this case, Jesus is teaching these lessons, right? But don't be hard on the disciples, and don't be hard on yourself. Jesus said, "A student is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for the student to be like his teacher, and the servant like his master." And so I was thinking about this, and I like this. Doing something good badly is still better than doing nothing at all. Okay, did you hear that? Doing something good badly is still better than doing nothing at all. Does that make sense? And so Jesus is calling us into this goodness. Even though we oftentimes do it badly, it's still progress, I guess, movement. And so Jesus calls into that because Christianity is based on our failure. It is the only religion in the world like that. It's based on your failure. That's what makes it the most humanly authentic faith in existence. And so Jesus invites us in to live this out, not out of earning anything, but out of love, out of just wanting to be like the Master. Right? And then to finish up today, he turns to them, again in this lesson about do what I do. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" So he's juxtaposing fear and faith. So fear is the faith killer. So there's something going on here that Jesus is pulling this out. This is the imitation, like follow me, learn something by this. They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the waves and the wind obey him." If fear is left unconfronted, it becomes a tyrant in your life. Tyrant. See, fear doesn't care about your goals and your potential. Fear doesn't care that you were made for something more. Fear only leads to one thing, a shrinking and collapsing into yourself. It just collapses you down. And when we don't turn, when we don't seek help, when we don't, I guess, draw those feelings and thoughts out with friends, with professionals, with those who have been called by God to help us, you just collapse in on yourself, right? There's this shrinking and collapsing. And so all you can think is like, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if something bad happens? What if I can't handle it? And you get stuck there. The worst part of it, and I think this is what Jesus gets to a lot when he's covering this topic, is that we begin to, what do I want to say? We begin to turn down opportunities to live that great adventure. We begin to turn down opportunities that God is providing us, what we could potentially do, not because we aren't capable, but because we fear we're going to mess up. We fear we might embarrass ourselves. We fear that we might regret it. Does this sound like a mindset of a witness? A witness of Jesus Christ. So he's slowly drawing them through these storms so that they build up some confidence, so they can enter into life, to witness, to know that he's with them. He's showing how he's with them. He's demonstrating, I'm right here. I'm right here. I've got you. I've died for you. I'm alive for you. And I'm right here. Let's join together. And let's live that great adventure I have planned for you. That's something, isn't it? You know, we're going to walk through a ton of storms. And as Christ followers, we have a promise that always walks with us. The promise that God will never leave us or forsake us. He already knows we're not going to hit the mark. He knows we're going to fail. But we keep stepping forward. We keep moving up, that upward aim to the divine. We keep moving. And this promise to remain faithful, even when our faith is weak, is so important because it gives us life, or gives us confidence to enter life, to go out the front door, to live it out, right? And his promise to give us this truly meaningful and purpose-filled life, that changes everything as we invite him in and pay attention and then imitate what he's done through Scripture, through great masters before us, through our parents. And as we go off, high school students, into whatever adventure God has in store for you, the odds are what you're starting to do, you will not end doing. But it's okay, high school grads. You'll land on your feet. You will. You'll land on your feet. You will have friends you never thought you were, maybe even a mate you never have met yet. You'll have a life and a place you have no conception of. You'll be fine because you have Jesus right there with you. And we thank Him for it. Amen.